now, also a native of Lafayette, Louisiana. DC, take us through the sequence that ended the fight.
Oh, man, early in the first round, Dustin Poirier started landing shots of his own, and his confidence built. Stan, you saw him point to Conor McGregor after he barely missed with the counter right hook. Then he got him with a left hand that hurt him very bad, and there was another right hand right on the nose that sat McGregor down and put him out. One follow-up shot, and the fight was over. Dustin Poirier is such a fantastic fighter, and the longer the fight went, the more he built confidence, and he really did do a lot of damage to Conor McGregor's outside leg, his lead leg, low calf kicks. Conor said it right away. The leg was dead after Dustin did work on it.
Both fighters came in really good shape, but McGregor hadn't fought in a year. Do you think the layoff affected him at all?
Well, he said it, right? Inactivity doesn't work in this game. You got to be active. You got to be in the octagon. You have to be fighting, especially when you're going to fight a guy in Dustin Poirier who is the former interim champion of the world, who's ranked number 2 in the world and had a chip on his shoulder. He wanted to get that one back from Conor McGregor. He needed to win this fight, and that's exactly what he did.
All right, so now what happens for Poirier? Khabib Nurmagomedov says he's retired. McGregor had been pointing to a rematch with Khabib. So now what happens?
I think for Dustin Poirier, it does not matter who's on the opposite side of the octagon. He is fighting for the UFC championship. I don't know if Khabib Nurmagomedov sees that as a reason to come back. He dominated the first fight, but Dustin Poirier should be in a UFC title fight. For Conor McGregor, it's rebuild, it's reload, get better. My voice is going out, Stan. I've called 36 fights over the course of this last week. But for Conor McGregor, it's rebuild and get back to work. He has all the desire in the world to be active. He's going to get back to fighting. And we've seen him in this situation before. He got beat by Nate Diaz, came back and beat him in the rematch. So we'll see Conor McGregor back in there, and he will prove to be better off of a loss every time he's come back.
He's the biggest star in UFC, DC. How much did the luster come off of Conor McGregor after this loss?
You can't lose, right? It's hard when you lose fights, but Conor McGregor does so much more than just bring publicity. Now, ultimately, what made it so good was that Conor McGregor was saying and doing things, but he was backing it up with his actions. He's going to have some impressive performances to get back to where he was. Look, man, fans have short-term memories. There's going to be a little bit of a hit right now. It's going to be some long nights for Conor McGregor, some sad nights. But I believe that this young man will rebuild himself, and he will be a player for a long time in the UFC.
This was really a shocker. We have your reaction on camera during the fight when the fight ended. How shocked were you when you saw it end the way it did?
I mean, you saw the way the fight was going. It was so close, it was so competitive, and Dustin was building, and I jumped up. But I wasn't the only one. Paul Felder jumped up. John Anik got up. The whole place went crazy, Stan. I mean, it felt like there were 30,000 people in this arena. There was like 2,000 people. It felt so packed. We haven't had fans for a year in the UFC, so it was crazy to see it happen. I jumped up. I was excited. Stan, my wife doesn't watch fights. She watched tonight because in 2014, we sat in a bar in Lafayette with a lot of our friends watching Dustin get knocked out by Conor. So she watched to see if he can get some get back, and Dustin Poirier got some get back.
All right, the party is on at Dustin Poirier's Bourbon Bar there in Lafayette, I'm sure. DC, rest up that voice. Safe travels back. Great having you on the show, my man.
My man, thank you so much. Dustin Poirier said it's gumbo and potato salad the moment he hits Lafayette, Louisiana. They will be waiting for him with a hero's welcome.
I feel that. All right, just the third loss of Conor McGregor's UFC career. Took his first loss back in 2016 against Nate Diaz at UFC 196. He was submitted in the second round by rear naked choke. McGregor would win the rematch 5 months later. 2018, he lost to Khabib Nurmagomedov by fourth round submission at UFC 229. This fight was more known for what happened after. You remember just the scene when Khabib charged into the crowd, started a melee. Then on Saturday, McGregor knocked out for the first time in his career. Poirier's 7 knockouts, now tied for the most at lightweight in UFC history. We are not done with this fight. What's next for Conor McGregor and for Dustin Poirier? Ariel Helwani is going to join us later, coming up on SportsCenter.
All right, the Nets are the...
Dustin Poirier comes back and gets revenge in their rematch, joined now by Chael Sonnen and Stephen A. Smith. And Chael, let me start with you. What a performance by Dustin Poirier, and a surprising performance to everyone except his camp. How did he do this?
Fellas, we do not get better at something by not doing it. Look, if there was a miss in 2020 by us as an industry, it was that Conor McGregor wanted to fight 4 times and we allowed him to fight once. In all fairness, it was a miss. Conor was slow tonight. Conor was sluggish. That is going to happen. You can only get so much in terms of repetition and timing in the gym through sparring. You've got to be out there and active. Something to be said for momentum. Momentum was on Poirier's side. He protected his chin. He fired back with low leg kicks. He chopped the leg down of McGregor, and ultimately he wore him out.
You know, Stephen A., this time last year, Conor McGregor was also coming off an even longer layoff. But Cowboy Cerrone, with all due respect, is not the level of fighter that Dustin Poirier was here tonight. And we saw, relative to Chael's point, how that inactivity maybe affected Conor McGregor in this bout.
Well, I thought Dustin Poirier did 2 things very, very effectively. Obviously, he was attacking Conor's calf, so that was one thing. But 2, you know, remember, he got knocked out in under a minute and 50 seconds the first go round, albeit 6 years ago or so. This time around, he tried to grapple with him initially, got him up against the cage, got him to the ground and what have you. That's what they were doing for the most part in the first round. I thought that gave Dustin Poirier a bit of time to get himself comfortable, to not be thinking about that KO loss that he had suffered at the hands of Conor McGregor years ago. And obviously, as his comfort level grew, along with Conor being a bit slow, a bit sluggish, missing with some straight lefts and what have you, ultimately, it just elevated Dustin Poirier's level of confidence, and he caught him because he had chopped him down with the calf kicks. He had chopped him down. Conor wasn't able to move, hit him, caught him, particularly with that left, and Conor was about to go, and ultimately he ended up going.
Yeah, we talk about Conor McGregor's striking ability in the UFC. It's some of the best of all time, but Dustin Poirier can throw some pretty good hands as well. But, Chael, why was he so effective at being able to land those calf kicks against McGregor?
One of the things that worked really well, okay, when you're southpaw against southpaw, that calf kick is going to be open, but we've never seen that a weakness of Conor McGregor. Guys in the past have tried to throw kicks, and Conor gives them a left right down the middle. For some reason, Conor was not responding, which part of what I'm blaming on the inactivity. That's a timing issue. You've got to bring your knee up, block it at the right time, send one back down the middle. Conor wasn't doing it. And also, that takedown in the very first round served Poirier in multiple ways, because the threat of the takedown is just as dangerous as the takedown. If you can threaten it, if you can make your opponent believe, 1, I'm willing to do it, but 2, I have the skills to get you down, you will make him react. And every time Dustin changed elevations, boom, Conor would have to change, thinking about the lower body attack, thinking about that tackle or takedown. Poirier would step in and chop him in the leg.
Stephen A., McGregor said inactivity was the issue. He wants to be even more active, clearly, in 2021. He plans to regroup, as he says, and come back and fight soon. How soon should he get back in there, and what caliber of opponent are we talking about that he could possibly see down the road?
As soon as he's capable of getting back in there, because I tell you something right now, the minute I saw Poirier take him down, the first thing that jumped to my mind when I saw how long it took Conor McGregor to get out of that situation, I said, this man ain't ready for Nurmagomedov. You want to beat Nurmagomedov, you ain't ready, because if you can't wrestle with Dustin Poirier at least as effectively as we would like to see you, so you can get loose and really chop him down with some of those strikes, then guess what? You're not going to beat somebody like Nurmagomedov. Remember, coming into the fight, Nurmagomedov, according to Dana White and others, had alluded to needing to see something spectacular in order to coax him out of retirement to want to have that quote-unquote big fight. We didn't see that tonight. What we're seeing is that Conor McGregor, inactive over the last 4 years, just 2 UFC fights. Obviously, he lost to Nurmagomedov in 2018. You beat Cowboy Cerrone, who showed up and looked like a deer in headlights with the bright lights. But you went in against Dustin Poirier. You wasn't ready to handle that. So now what? I don't know where he goes from here. Of course, activity matters, but when you've shown the world that grappling, wrestling, and ultimately being susceptible to those calf kicks, because if you watch Conor McGregor, he had trouble literally getting off his seat when he went to hug Poirier and congratulate him. If you're going to get chopped down like that, how are you going to beat some of the elite fighters that will be waiting for you? I don't see that happening. I think there's a reason for concern with Conor McGregor, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, McGregor 3-3 in his last 6 fights in the UFC. Chael, I'll get your take on that. How soon should McGregor get back in there, and what type of opponents are we looking at for him?
Look, I do think he needs activity. He deserves 3 fights in a calendar year, same as everybody else is offered. So, I mean, if we're looking around June, July, okay, fine. And you know what, Eves? I like the 4 guys we had tonight. I don't mind the idea of Michael Chandler advancing to take on Poirier for the championship belt, whether that's an interim or we pull it off of Khabib. Let's do it for the belt. I don't hate the idea of getting Hooker and Conor in there together. I mean, the Olympic Games play all the way to 3rd. If we're giving out medals, man, let's play this thing through.
Hey, not a bad idea. It sort of felt like a Final Four in the 155-pound division. Ultimately, that winner would get Khabib, hopefully, but we'll see how it plays out. But again, much credit to Dustin Poirier coming back and getting revenge against Conor McGregor. And he said, you know what? He may not fight again. He said this felt like a championship fight to him with Khabib in retirement. We'll see what's next for Dustin Poirier. We'll see you over on ESPN Plus with even more coverage from what we saw tonight here at UFC 257. Dustin Poirier knocking out Conor McGregor in the 2nd round. For Chael and Stephen A., I'm Michael Eaves. We'll send it back to SportsCenter.
Thank you, Michael. Poirier outlanded McGregor 48-29 in significant strikes. 18 of those 48 being leg strikes the boys talked about, according to UFC stats. Started chopping low, finished high. It was one big left that really stunned McGregor. Conor did throw a couple of lefts back while he was getting pummeled.